This happened a few weeks ago. I was 32 and just moving into a small town. I thought it would be a fresh start for me after my breakup. The neighborhood felt quiet, maybe too quiet. It made me uneasy. On my first evening, I noticed a flickering light next door. I thought maybe it was the elderly couple who lived there. They might have forgotten to turn off a lamp. Later, when I looked out again, the light was off. I could have sworn the house looked empty. Maybe they went out for dinner. Over the next few days, I kept seeing something move behind the curtains of that empty house. I thought I was imagining it. But then I heard laughter one afternoon. It drifted through the trees, but there were no children around. Just me and my cat, who began to act strange. She would hiss as if someone was there. It gave me chills. I tried to ignore the shadows and sounds. It was easy to brush it off as my mind playing tricks. But then, one night, everything changed. I stood at my window, peering through the glass, when I saw a figure behind the curtain. My heart dropped. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. I wanted to knock on their door, but I was too scared. What if they were just old and hard of hearing? Later that week, I sat in my living room, and I heard laughter again. This time, it felt too close. I rushed to the window, but no one was there, just the rustling leaves. My heart raced. I felt foolish, but something was definitely wrong. I listened more carefully from that day on. I got texts from new neighbors welcoming me, but it felt empty. Then one afternoon, I decided to step outside. As I walked toward the empty house, something felt heavy in the air. My skin crawled, like I was being watched. I knocked on the front door, but there was no reply. It felt strange standing there. As I turned to leave, movement caught my eye. A shadowy figure peeked out from a side window, just for a second. When I looked again, they were gone. The day melted into night, and the air grew colder. I stood there, trying to catch my breath. I told myself I was just being paranoid, but I couldn't shake the feeling. What was hidden behind those walls? That evening, the laughter echoed again. It sent a chill through me. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. I wanted to scream, but my voice wouldn't come out. The nights dragged on, and the shadow behind the curtain haunted my thoughts. Was it my imagination? Or was something sinister waiting just across the fence? I didn't know. The unease lingered in every corner of my mind. I had to know more, despite the fear settling deep in my bones. The morning sun peeked through my window, but it held no warmth. I tried to shake off the dread clinging to me. After a sleepless night filled with unsettling dreams, I decided today would be different. I needed answers about the house next door. I pulled on my jacket and grabbed my cat, Marla. Maybe she could sense something odd too. As I stepped outside, the air felt unusually still. I looked toward the empty house, half expecting to see the figure again. Nothing. Just the shadows playing tricks on my mind. I walked around the perimeter of the house, squinting at every window. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was hiding just out of sight. The laughter from the other night echoed in my head. It was too close for comfort, and I wanted it to stop. I bent down to inspect the mailbox. It was empty, like the house. As I stood back up, I noticed the door was slightly ajar, creaking just enough for me to hear. My heart quickened. Shouldn't a place like this be locked tight? Curiosity got the better of me. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The air was thick and grimy, filled with dust and shadows. Each creak of the floor made me jump. I was breaking a boundary, and I could feel the weight of that choice settling on my shoulders. I took a few cautious steps into the living room. It was sparsely furnished, like a ghost of a home. Faded pictures adorned the walls, but they were turned face down. I felt uneasy, like I was intruding. The laughter rang in my ears again, this time more playful and taunting. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaking. No response. As I turned to leave, a movement caught my eye from the corner of the room. I hesitated, longing to leave but drawn inexplicably closer. The light flickered on a dusty old lamp, and that when I noticed it the family photo left on a table, now facing up. I picked it up. It showed a smiling couple with 2 children, but their faces looked blurred, like they had been scratched away. That chill crept back up my spine. I placed the photo down gently, as if it might break, and glanced around. Suddenly, a door slammed in the back of the house. I jumped. My instincts screamed at me to run. I stepped back, but the laughter returned, muffled, echoing from somewhere just beyond the wall. I turned to bolt, and that when I saw it a fleeting shadow darting by the doorway. I couldn't breathe. My feet felt glued to the floor. Who was there? What did they want? The panic surged, and I stumbled back, rushing out the front door. As I reached the yard, the laughter faded, but the feeling of being watched lingered. I didn't look back. I needed to get away. But the question burned in my mind, why were they there? And what did their shadows want from me? The next day, I couldn't shake the events from the night before. I woke up feeling drained, but I knew I had to confront my fear. I needed to find out what was happening in that house. Maybe there was information in town, or someone who knew about the family that lived there. After breakfast, I grabbed my things and headed to the local library. The smell of old books welcomed me, a comforting contrast to the anxious energy swirling inside me. I approached the librarian, Miss Harper, a kind woman who seemed to know everyone in town. "Hi, Ms. Harper. Do you know anything about the house next door to mine?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Her expression shifted slightly. "The old Thompson place?" she replied, eyebrows raised. "Yeah, that's the one. It's been empty for years now. The family that lived there left rather suddenly." "Suddenly?" She looked away, as if she were recalling something unsettling. "There were rumors. Strange happenings. They packed up overnight and vanished." Her voice was low and hesitant, but my curiosity spiked. "Do you know what kind of strange happenings?" "They talked about noises, shadows, and that sort of thing." She glanced around the library as if someone might overhear us. "People said they were haunted." The hairs on my arms stood up. I felt a chill run down my spine as I wondered if that could be true. After I finished my conversation with Ms. Harper, I dug through the archives for any news articles. I found a short piece detailing the family's abrupt departure. There were no answers, just vague mentions of fright and confusion. I closed the folder, feeling more unsettled than before. On my way back home, I glanced toward the Thompson house. I couldn't help but think about the laughter. Suddenly, a sound jolted me from my thoughts. I turned swiftly. A child stood at the far end of the street, staring directly at me. A girl, maybe 8 or 9, with wild hair and dirt-streaked cheeks. She wore a tattered dress that floated around her like a whisper. "Help them," she said softly, her voice ringing clear despite the distance. "Help who?" I shouted back, but she didn't answer. Instead, she pointed toward the house, her finger unwavering. I took a step forward, heart racing. "Wait. Who?" But as soon as I approached, she turned and dashed away, disappearing behind a bush at the corner of the street. My breath caught in my throat. Was she real? Or part of the haunting? I glanced up at the Thompson house, and the door, once ajar, was now fully closed. That's when I saw it, a figure standing behind the window, just as I had before. The outline was faint, but something about it felt more solid than the last time. Panic flooded me again. I stumbled back, heart pounding wildly. I felt the overwhelming urge to run, but something compelled me to stay. I needed to understand what had just happened. I needed answers. I turned my back on the house, but a shadow moved across the corner of my eye. It was gone before I could focus. I clutched Marla closer to me, and desperate questions raced through my mind. Who was the little girl? What help did she need? And why did it feel like the shadows were drawing me closer? I stood there for a moment, confusion swirling like fog in my mind. My feet felt rooted to the ground, but I willed myself to turn away from the Thompson house. I had to think. The girl's words echoed in my head, help them. Who was I supposed to help? As I made my way home, I recalled my grandmother's stories about spirits. She used to say that they were often tied to unfinished business. Was that what the girl meant? Did someone in that house still need help? I arrived at my front porch, trying to shake off the unease. I took a deep breath and stepped inside, hoping to distract myself. I made tea and settled on the couch, flipping through the afternoon's news. Each headline felt more mundane than the last, but my mind was elsewhere. Then I heard a soft knock at the door. I froze. My gaze shot to the clock. I wasn't expecting anyone. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. After a moment, I slowly walked to the door, heart racing. I hesitated before opening it, peeking through the peephole. A woman stood outside, her face partially obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. I couldn't see her expression, but there was something unnerving about her presence. Hello? I called out, not ready to open the door yet. May I come in? She asked softly. Her voice was smooth but sent a shiver down my spine. I remained quiet, weighing my options. There was something unsettling in her tone. I finally opened the door a crack, enough to see her properly. She wore an old-fashioned dress, and an unusual aura surrounded her. I saw you by the Thompson house, she said, her dark eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that felt almost supernatural. You're curious about the family. Aren't you? I took a step back instinctively, surprised that she knew. I'm just trying to understand what happened. Those who lingered there still seek help, she said, her lips curling into a knowing smile. You must seek them yourself. Who? I managed to stammer. Before she could answer, a loud crash came from the back of my house. I turned instinctively toward the sound, then back at her, but she was gone. No trace of her anywhere, just an eerie silence hanging in the air. My heart thudded in my chest. I dashed through the house, checking corners and making sure all windows were locked. As I rounded the corner to the kitchen, the air felt heavy. The crash had come from the back porch. I peered outside, ready to confront whatever was there. But instead of a break-in or an animal, I found a small, dusty teddy bear lying in the middle of the porch. It looked old, tattered, and out of place. I inched cautiously toward it, my body on high alert. That's when I noticed a small piece of paper clenched in its paw. I unfolded it, my hands trembling. Help us, it read, written in jagged, shaky letters. The world around me spun as I realized this was no ordinary bear. I stumbled back, my mind racing. I had a growing sense that whatever was happening wasn't just about the house anymore, it was something much deeper, something I was now tangled up in whether I liked it or not. Was the little girl connected to this? And was I truly ready to uncover the truth? I took another step back, feeling the cold breath of fear wash over me once more. What would happen next? I stood frozen on the porch, the teddy bear's worn fur brushing against my fingers. My gaze darted around under the dim light, expecting shadows to leap out at me. I moved away from the bear, instincts firing. Whatever message it carried sent chills up my spine. I looked back at the bear, anxious to examine it further. Could this bear be linked to the Thompson house? Was it connected to the girl? I felt a pull to figure this out. I didn't want to, but the thought of leaving it there was worse. I leaned down and scooped it up, hesitating only for a moment before retreating inside. Once I was back in the safety of my kitchen, I placed the bear on the table and studied it closely. The paper clutched in its paw felt like a hazardous omen. Don't overthink it, I told myself. I needed answers, not fear. I turned the bear this way and that. It was adorable once, but years of neglect had left it ragged. I found a faint stitch near its arm that looked like someone tried to fix it. My heart raced as I imagined the child who must have cherished it. Was that child still connected to the Thompson house? Did they need help finding peace? I grabbed my phone, fingers trembling as I searched for any information about the Thompson family. Most articles cited the tragedy and accident that took their lives, no survivors. But the comments under one article caught my attention. Multiple people claimed they'd seen a girl there, one with a pale face and a vintage dress. Just like the woman at my door, I muttered, swallowing hard. My mind raced. Could the woman be linked to the girl? Were they both tied to the house? Suddenly, a loud thump came from the back porch, again louder this time. Sweat trickled down my back. I couldn't ignore it. I didn't want to confront whatever it was, but I felt a strange urge to face it. I took a deep breath and left the house once more, the teddy bear left behind, its gaze watching. As I stepped outside, the moon hung low, casting eerie shadows. In the distance, I could hear branches rustling, but everything seemed quiet around me. I reached the porch and looked around cautiously. Then my eyes caught something. An old, rusted swing had started to sway on its own. My gut twisted. The ground beneath me felt unsteady, and I took a step back, unsure I could handle whatever this was. Then I heard a soft whisper, too quiet to comprehend, yet unmistakably close. Adrenaline surged through me. "Help us," it said in a voice that echoed the words from the bear. I turned rapidly, my heart pounding harder than I ever thought possible. I was almost ready to run back inside when I caught a fleeting glimpse of the same girl from the Thompson house. She stood a few feet away, her gaze fixed on me. Frozen in place, fear gripped me. She opened her mouth again, and this time I could see her lips moving, but no sound came out. I couldn't tell if she was pleading or warning me. Before I could gather my thoughts, she pointed down the path, her eyes scanning the dark woods behind me. I followed her gaze. Something was moving in the shadows. My heart sank. I had to make a choice. Could I face what awaited me, or was it too terrifying to uncover the truth that bound this girl to me and the Thompson house? I hesitated for a second, my mind racing. The girl was still there, her pale face almost glowing in the moonlight. I wanted to scream, to run back into my house, but something in her eyes anchored me. She wasn't frightening, she looked lost and desperate. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, though my voice was barely a whisper. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves and making everything feel even creepier. The girl blinked, her expression shifting, as though she understood my fear but couldn't share her own. She pointed again toward the woods, her arms steady this time. I squinted into the darkness, my heart hammering against my ribs. Shadows danced in the periphery, but all I could see were the trees. Tension coiled in me. What could be out there? The whispers of the past echoed in my mind. I had to know. "What do you want from me?" I called out, a few steps away from the porch. She finally moved closer, gliding as if she wasn't touching the ground. It took everything in me not to recoil. The girl stood just within arm's reach, and behind her, the darkness felt thicker somehow, more alive. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching us. With a swift motion, she pointed once more. This time, I noticed a glimmer between the branches. My pulse quickened. I forced myself to look. Was it an animal? Or something else entirely? That's when I saw it, a small, dilapidated house nestled deep in the woods. It looked like a piece of a dream, a house that had seen better days, broken windows resembling hollow eyes. My gut clenched. Was this the Thompson home? Was that where the girl wanted me to go? Just as I leaned in closer, an unearthly howl pierced the night. It reverberated in my bones, pulling me back sharply. The girl's eyes widened, and in an instant, she vanished. My breath caught in my throat as I staggered backward, panic settling in. "Wait!" I shouted, but the silence swallowed my words. The swing creaked in the wind, a reminder of her presence. I glanced behind me, and for a moment, I felt the weight of unseen eyes, something lurking in the shadows. I had to make a decision. Should I listen to the girl and venture into the woods alone? Or should I retreat into my house, shutting the door on whatever haunted the Thompson legacy? Just then, I noticed something glinting on the ground where the girl had stood. I knelt down, worried it was a trick of the light, but there it was, another teddy bear, smaller but equally worn. In its paw was a crumpled note. I unfolded it cautiously, my heart sinking as the words scrawled across the page read, "Find me." An unsettling chill crawled up my spine. Who was the girl? And what awaited me in that house? I couldn't ignore it any longer. I needed to know. I stared at the note, my fingers trembling. Find me. The words echoed in my mind. What could that even mean? I glanced back toward the woods. The glimmer of the house now seemed to pulse with an unknown energy, drawing me closer. I took a deep breath and stood up, clutching the note tightly. The swing creaked again, and I realized I couldn't stand there any longer. I had to investigate. Whatever the girl wanted was still out there, and I felt some strange compulsion to know. Still, the howl from before lingered in my ears, reminding me I could be stepping into something dangerous. I glanced at the teddy bear, pondering for a moment if I should take it with me. In the end, I left it behind. I needed to focus on the house, on the girl, on whatever truth was buried in those woods. I moved toward the edge of the porch, hesitating before taking the first step off it. The grass was still damp with dew, and it felt cold beneath my bare feet as I made my way toward the tree line. Each step was heavy with apprehension, but also an electric thrill of curiosity. The woods swallowed me quickly. Shadows weaved through the trees like living things, and every gust of wind brought with it an unwelcoming chill. As I pushed further in, the howling faded, replaced by the distant murmur of leaves and the sound of my footsteps, which felt oddly amplified. I scanned the tree trunks, searching for anything that might offer answers or lead me to the house. It was difficult to shake the feeling that something was moving, watching. I paused, listening intently. There it was again, a rustle, closer this time. My heart raced as I turned to find the source but only saw swaying branches. Regaining my resolve, I pressed on, determined to find that house. When I finally stepped into a small clearing, I caught sight of the ruins. The dilapidated structure loomed ahead, and I felt a mix of dread and fascination. It was as if the house had been waiting for me. Vines crawled up its weathered walls, and the roof sagged, promising danger. The open door gaped at me like a dark mouth. I hesitated, my instincts screaming at me to turn back. Yet, a flicker of movement at the corner of my vision pulled my gaze. It looked like a shadow, no, a figure gliding past the window. "Hello?" I called out, my voice wavering. No response came, only the whisper of wind through broken glass. I squinted, trying to catch another glimpse, but it was gone. I took a tentative step closer to the house, the splintered wood creaking under my weight. As I reached the entrance, I remembered the girl's face, the urgency of her message. Find me. But what was I supposed to find? And where could she be? I stepped inside, the air thick and stale, filled with a sense of abandonment as the darkness enveloped me. Then something shifted behind me. I spun around, heart pounding. The faint silhouette of the girl appeared in the doorway, her translucent form flickering like a candle in the wind. "Help me," she whispered, and in that moment, I knew I had to choose stay and confront whatever was waiting in the shadows or flee back into the safety of the night. But as I opened my mouth to answer, a low growl echoed from deeper within the house, sending a fresh wave of terror through me. I had to act fast. I took a step back instinctively, my breath hitching in my throat. That growl reverberated through the house like an omen. I glanced at the girl. She looked back at me with wide, pleading eyes. "Quick!" she urged, her voice barely a whisper now. I was rooted on the spot, caught between the urge to flee and the need to know what was hiding inside. "What do you want from me?" I shouted, my voice almost swallowed by the oppressive silence of the room. "Find me," she repeated, gesturing toward the darkness behind her. The shadows seemed to deepen, curling like dark smoke. I felt the pull of her gaze, urging me to step closer, to take the plunge into that unknown. The growl came again, louder this time, more menacing. I felt cold fingertips gripping around my spine as a sense of dread washed over me. "No!" I gasped, taking another step back. "I can't go in there." I turned to run, but the door slammed shut, cutting off my escape. Panic surged through me. "Let me out." I pounded on the door. It didn't budge. I was trapped, with nothing but shadows and the girl standing before me. The girl's expression changed. She looked more frightened than I felt. "You have to find me." Her voice trembled, and I caught a glimpse of something on the edge of her form, what looked like a fleeting memory, a scene from another time. "Where?" I stammered, desperation creeping into my words. "Where are you?" But before she could answer, the growling escalated into a snarl, a sound jagged and raw, echoing from the dark corners of the house. I felt the hairs on my arms stand on end. I pressed my back against the door, heart racing. Suddenly, the shadows began to shift and contort. I squinted into the darkness. Something was there, moving slowly, a mass of swirling darkness with glowing eyes. I felt my pulse quicken, my instinct screaming for me to flee. "Please!" the girl cried, backing away. The darkness loomed larger, inching closer, drawn to us like a predator sensing its prey. "You have to trust me." I cast one last uncertain glance at her pale face. Something in me wavered. Was I really going to abandon her? The thing in the shadows let out a piercing howl, and I knew I had to decide in that moment. Without thinking, I lunged forward toward the girl. I didn't even know what I planned to do. Maybe I could drag her out, but as I reached for her, she vanished into wisps of mist. The darkness surged, rushing toward me. "No!" I screamed, stumbling back. Everything went quiet again, and I found myself alone, with only the remnants of her cry echoing in my head. The growl faded to silence, leaving an emptiness that felt even worse. I turned my eyes to the doorway. The sunlight had dimmed behind me. If I was going to escape, I had to do it now. I pushed against the door again, and this time, my momentum worked. The door opened with a crash, and I stumbled outside, gasping for air. As I looked back, the house loomed large, threatening. The air felt wrong, like a warning before a storm. Shaking, I glanced over my shoulder, and there she was again, a flickering image framed in the doorway. "You have to find me," she whispered once more, before fading from view. I was left standing in the clearing, cold sweat trickling down my back, knowing that whatever I had just encountered was only the beginning. Time was running out, and I had to figure out how to confront it. But where to start? The woods felt alive, filled with questions that begged to be answered. The next day, I forced myself to return to the edge of the woods. I didn't sleep much after my encounter in the house. The girl's words haunted me. "You have to find me." They clung to me like a shadow. What did she mean? Where was she, really? I had to figure it out. I took a deep breath as I stepped onto the familiar path, the trees looming around me like silent sentinels. The air felt different, heavier, as if it held its breath along with me. With each step deeper into the woods, my heart raced, half with fear, half with determination. Suddenly, I noticed a shimmer of sunlight breaking through the trees. It landed on something small and metallic. Curiosity tugged at me. I approached cautiously. On the ground, half buried in the soft earth, was an old locket. I knelt down, brushing away dirt. It was cold in my hands, polished but tarnished. I carefully opened it. Inside was a faded picture of the same girl, the one from the house. My breath caught. She looked different in the photograph, younger, maybe happier. There was an inscription inscribed on the back, "Always search for the light." What did that mean? As I stood up, the woods grew still. That same growl echoed, distant yet distinct. My heart raced. I scanned the trees, trying to spot the source. Then everything went dark. A chilling silence wrapped around me. My pulse quickened. I turned, but the path behind me was gone. The trees twisted into a solid barrier, trapping me in place. "Find me," the girl's voice fluttered through the air, sounding closer now. I took a shaky step forward, the locket clutched tightly in my palm. "Where?" I shouted, desperation clawing at my throat. And in response, a figure emerged from the darkness. It was another girl, almost a mirror image of the one in the locket, but older and darker, wearing a torn dress. Her eyes shone with urgency. "You're too late," she warned, her voice wavering. "You need to leave now." Before I could respond, the ground trembled beneath me. Something huge stirred in the shadows, its presence more palpable than before. I was rooted to the spot, questions swirling in my mind. Who was this girl? What did she mean? Suddenly, the dark mass erupted from the trees, a monstrous silhouette with glowing eyes glaring down at me. Fear seized me. I had to move, but where? That's when I saw it, a faint light flickering in the distance, beyond the monstrous figure. I turned to run, but the girl grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "You have to trust me." In that split second, I felt the urgency of her words. I realized fleeing alone could lead to more confusion, maybe worse. "Fine. Show me," I yelled, desperation bubbling inside. With a determined nod, she pulled me toward the light, but behind us, the growling grew louder, a guttural sound that sent shivers down my spine. I could feel the terror pressing in around us. Whatever was chasing us was not far behind. We raced forward, and with every step, the light seemed to pulse, beckoning me. I was terrified yet captivated, desperate to find out where this path would lead. It had to be better than what pursued us. But as we got closer, I realized I had no clue what awaited at the end. Would it bring safety or doom? And then suddenly, I stumbled, my foot catching on twisted roots. I fell, the light flickering just out of reach. The growl behind us crescendoed, and my heart dropped as darkness loomed closer. My heart raced as I fought to regain my balance, desperate to reach the girl who had pulled me into the mad dash through the woods. She turned back, her face a mask of urgency mixed with fear. "Get up!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos swirling around us. I pushed myself off the ground, adrenaline surging through my veins. With the deafening growl echoing behind us, I felt the weight of that darkness pressing in like a heavy fog, urging me to turn back. But the light, oh, that dazzling, warm light beckoned me forward, a flicker of hope amidst the dread. We sprinted toward it, the girl's grip firm around my wrist as we dodged branches and leapt over roots. I could sense that whatever chased us was gaining ground. The guttural growl was right at our heels, a reminder that we weren't just running for freedom, we were fleeing from something that hungered for us. Closer and closer, we dashed toward the light. My lungs burned, and my legs screamed for a reprieve, but I couldn't stop now. Not when we were so close. Finally, just as I thought my legs would give out, I burst into the clearing where the light culminated, and the world around us transformed. The light swelled, bright and blinding, engulfing us in an ethereal glow. I squinted against its brilliance as I stumbled to a stop, marveling at the sudden shift in the atmosphere. The oppressive weight of the wood vanished, and where the growls had promised despair, a warm, calming energy enveloped us. "Stay close," the girl shouted, her eyes wide as we stood in the radiant glow. I could hardly comprehend what surrounded us. There were shimmering remnants of memory in the air, images of laughter, fragments of joy emanating from the soft light. It was strangely comforting amidst the adrenaline. As the shadows writhed on the edge of the clearing, I felt a surge of defiance. Whatever was pursuing us, whatever darkness came from the Thompson house, it couldn't touch this light. "What is this place?" I whispered, awestruck by the beauty of it. The girl glanced around, her expression softening. "This is where they were free," she said. "Where the others can find peace." Her voice trembled, and I wondered who she meant. "But it only holds if we can battle the darkness." Suddenly, the shadows condensed, boiling like an angry storm at the edge of the clearing. I felt the atmosphere shift, the chill returning as ominous voices filled the air. "What the hell is that?" I breathed, instinct kicking in as panic flickered once more beneath my skin. But the girl beside me didn't waver, she seemed to draw strength from the light. "You have to help me," she insisted, eyes glistening with resolve. "You must confront the darkness or else," she faltered, pain flashing across her face for a brief instant. "Or else what?" I pressed, fear creeping through. "I knew we couldn't remain in the light forever." "Or else it will devour everything," she replied, her voice tipping into desperation. "You have to free the others." I swallowed, my mind racing with the implications of what she asked. Free the others? How? All I wanted was to escape, to leave this nightmare behind. I felt the sinking weight of dread return. But somehow, deep down, I knew running wouldn't solve anything. The darkness surged forward, tendrils reaching toward us with malevolent intent. "I'll do it," I shouted, shaking off the fear. "But how?" "Find their light," she urged, her eyes locking on mine, fierce determination radiating from her. "That's the only way." Just as I nodded, the veil of shadows broke through the confined space around us like a wave crashing upon a shore. I braced myself, the darkness was thickening, twisting itself against the light, circling menacingly. And in the very moment of confrontation, I felt it, the fear, the loss, the ache of a world left behind. The laughter of the girl echoed in my ears alongside the spine-chilling whispers of the shadows. "Help us!" they murmured, myriad voices layering upon one another, pulling at my heartstrings, reminding me of the connections I once held dear. "Okay," I yelled defiantly into the abyss. "I'll help. But show me how." The girl looked at me in that moment, her own muddled fears mixed with hope. Together. The light pulsed around us, embracing my very core. The shadows recoiled as an unnatural howl echoed from their depths, as if terrified of the bond that was forming. The struggle intensified as I siphoned the power from the radiance. What I feared turned into strength. Oh, it felt good. The darkness screeched, but as it reached for me, I opened my heart and let the warmth unfurl. Images flickered before me, faces of joy, laughter, whispers of memories forgotten. I grasped for them, letting their essence wash over me. Suddenly, the girl's presence beside me amplified in brilliance. She reached out toward the shadows, guiding me. "Let them go." The shadows recoiled, morphing as if stripped of life. And then, in a surge of clarity, I realized it wasn't just my light. It was every connection I had ever forged, counterpart to the girl beside me, every chance I took to reach out and love, overcoming the silence of past sorrows. Together. I shouted again, and the light erupted, bursting through the detritus circling us. I watched, awe and terror mingling, as flickers of joy sparked and pulsed around, overcoming dread. The shadows screeched, contorting, fading into nothingness, until only the girl's figure remained, luminous and radiant. You found me, she whispered, just before the light enveloped her, blending with the very fabric of everything I believed in, leaving me breathless. As the clearing grew quiet, the shadows dissolved into memories, and I stood, disoriented but free. The forest returned to a hushed calm, the sun low in the sky, dulling the breeze into whispers. The woods were still shadowed and dark, but I no longer felt their weight. I took a shaky step back, ready to leave this chapter behind, wondering if any of it had been real. But I could still hear her echoing pleas, the laughter of lost souls, and it urged me on. There was peace in knowing that I had connected with something greater, yet the enigma of the house still lingered in my mind. I stepped cautiously from the clearing and glanced back, half expecting to see a sign of the figures I had encountered. But it was all just darkened trees and quiet space, nothing left of those who had once roamed the woods around me. Perhaps they had finally found their light, or maybe they were still searching. But as I walked away, I realized one thing: some questions might never have answers, and perhaps some shadows will always linger just out of the light's reach.